Good morning. Thank you very much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen and members of the press. I would like to thank you for your participation today. My name is Winarat Lauha Pakakun on behalf of Delta Electronics Thailand Public Company Limited. I would like to welcome you to this Delta Future Industry Summit 2020, which has been organized for the third year.
And on behalf of Delta Electronics Thailand Public Company Limited, I would like to welcome all of you to the third annual Delta Future Industry Summit. As a global provider of power and thermal management solutions, Delta is part
our region, including smart homes, air quality control, smart factory, EV, alternative energies, and data centers.
Delta's friends from the Ministry of Industry, Telecom, Digital Infrastructure, Property Development, Electric Vehicles, and Building and Renewable Energy sectors หวังเป็นอย่างยิ่งนะคะว่าทุกท่านจะได้รับประโยชน์จากงานสัมมนาในวันนี้นะคะและจะได้มีโอกาสทำความรู้จักกับวิทยากรจากหลากหลายภาคส่วนอาทิกระทรวงอุตสาหกรรมระบบสื่อสารโทรคมนาคมโครงสร้างพื้นฐานด้านดิจิทัลการพัฒนาอสังหาริมทรัพย์ผู้ผลิตยานยนต์ไฟฟ้ารวมถึงการพัฒนาอาคารและพลังงานไฟฟ้าค่ะก่อนที่เราจะเริ่มงานในวันนี้นะคะ
And before we start, I would like to ask all participants to please wear the face mask and observe social distancing.
To remind all of you once again to please wear your masks or face shields if you have one in order to align with our social distancing policy. So to start our event today, to first of all invite the Permanent Secretary of Ministry of Industry to give us the latest update on the Thai government's policy and plan for Thailand future proofing เพื่อเริ่มต้นงานสัมมนาอย่างเป็นทางการในวันนี้นะคะก่อนอื่นเลยดิฉันจะขอเรียนเชิญท่านปลัดกระทรวงอุตสาหกรรมกล่าวเปิดงานพร้อมทั้งแบ่งปันข้อมูลล่าสุดค่ะเกี่ยวกับนโยบายและแผนงานของภาครัฐในการเตรียมพร้อมประเทศไทยรับมืออนาคตนะคะ Ladies and gentlemen, so please join me in welcoming Mr. Kobchai Sungsittisawat, Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Industry ขอเสียงปรบมือต้อนรับคุณกอบชัยสังสิทธิสวัสดิ์ปลัดกระทรวงอุตสาหกรรมค่ะเรียนเชิญค่ะ
Mr. Jackie Chang, from Delta Electronics Thailand, public company. Speakers from PEA, EVAT, SEG Cement Building Materials, Lineman, Wong Nai, True Internet Data Center, Oracle Thailand, Land and House, Fraser's Properties Thailand, and Energy Smart. Executives from Delta Electronics Thailand, distinguished guests from government, educational sectors, members of the press who are here in Delta Future Industry Summit 2020 under this theme of future-proofing Thailand for the next normal. On behalf of the Industry Ministry, I would like to thank Delta Electronics Thailand for organizing this event so that every one of us here can experience a solution to get ourselves ready for the next normal. Amidst the challenge of COVID-19, which is a challenge for Thailand, Delta Electronics is one of the companies that work closely with the Ministry of Industry during the past several years. And it is one of the big brothers that incubated the new generation of entrepreneurs by the support of the Delta Angel Fund by the initiation of Kun Anusorn Mutrait, who has allocated a budget for the ministry for the incubation of SME more than 5 million baht per year to support SMEs and startups. In the past 5 years, we have supported and incubated up to 158 teams with the support from this project. And that adds the values to the economy by more than 500 million baht. With the economic reforms, with the value creation basis, we need collaboration from all stakeholders and the smart manufacturing that is driven by data. With the supply chain in the local areas, which the Ministry of Industry has created the iConnect platform to gather information from different agencies. We want to create a big data to link with other agencies to make it an iConnect big data to mobilize the Thai economy as one database that link to ASEAN and balances the demand and supplies in the Thai future. So the preparation of the infrastructures in the technology to support big data is really necessary. And it's really a pleasure that we will hear from several leaders in our panelists today. And we need to create the energy and environmental security through EV and renewable energies, and to start the ecosystem for smart startups with skilled laborers that will lead us to an exciting opportunity. At the same time, the Thai people are using new digital technologies to track data about the virus, its prevention, and the social distancing measures in this challenging time. Right now, we need automation, robotics, and more of the digital economy for a safe life and a convenient life. Delta has worked with government agencies, universities, and medical communities in supporting important equipment for the local development, including the frontliners, PPEs. Once we get through this crisis together, we hope to collaborate and build Thailand to be a livable and prosperous community. On behalf of the Ministry of Industry, I would like to thank Delta and its partners for helping us with the restoration in the new normal of Thailand. And we hope that we would overcome this challenge and achieve our goals in the next normal. I hope you will find this event beneficial. Please seek opportunities to create new business models in the next normal, and Delta will be a coach advisor in your business development. And I hope this seminar will be productive to you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. The Permanent Secretary of Industry, please stay on the stage. I will ask Jackie Chang to give you a token of appreciation.
Delta Electronics Thailand Public Company Limited to please present a token of appreciation to the Permanent Secretary. ขอเสียงปรบมือด้วยค่ะ ขอบคุณค่ะ Please remain on stage เดี๋ยวขอเชิญอยู่บนเวทีต่อก่อนนะคะเพื่อที่จะถ่ายภาพร่วมกับวิทยากรนะคะที่จะมาร่วมงานในวันนี้ขอเรียนเชิญวิทยากรทุกท่านเลยค่ะของทั้ง3วงเสวนานะคะขึ้น
Now we would like to invite all the panelists and speakers from PEA, from EVAT, ACG, Cement and Building Materials Company Limited, True Data Center, Lineman, Fraser's Property Company Limited, Oracle Thailand, and executives of Delta Electronics Thailand.
Stage. Thank you. สำหรับการเสวนาในวัน
The seminar today and discussions today, we have 3 panel discussions with varying themes, including the data center solutions, green transportation, and smart building solutions. We would like to invite you all to ask questions because in all these panels, we have the Q&A session where you can ask the speakers. And Delta Electronics has gathered the experts in these respective fields to be on a stage at the same time. And that's tremendous. So it is an opportunity for us all to ask any questions you have. And from now, I would like to invite President of Delta Electronics Thailand Public Company to give you a welcome.
Mr. Jackie Chang, President of Delta Electronics Thailand, to please give his welcome remark. Please give him a very warm welcome.
สวัสดีครับ Bonjour, Jackie Chang. I would like to take the chance to welcome everyone today and thanks all the friends and from the government and from the industrial and universities and the press joined the Delta Annual Industrial Summit. In spite of the COVID-19, we are happy to have the chance to meet with you all again in person. And here we'd like to look forward and discuss for the next normal and the next step we can take to help the Thailand recover and make a better environment for growth and innovation in the Southeast Asia. If we look back to the past few months, I'm sure you will all agree that our life has been totally changed. And who will you think that we couldn't travel anymore. And also, the travel industry is suffering quite a lot from that. So much of our consumer behavior is also changed quite a lot from offline. Now all go on to online. I think my wife, she's very good at using her mobile phone to order the food delivery now. Yeah? And this means there's the huge demand for data and the digital infrastructure for not just consumers, but also for the many industries. For the manufacturing sectors, we also need to think about how to accelerate Industrial 4.0 and adapt the IoT technologies to overcome the challenges. As a business adjusts to the next normal, and how will manufacturing be and its supply chain look post-COVID-19? And I think this is very important question for us to consider as well. So if we expect that the manufacturing and the supply chain are likely to be as much more digital, then industrial leaders, I believe they are also ready leveraging Industrial 4.0 solution. As a result, those of us in the manufacturing and the digital industry are well positioned to lead the region recovery by acceleration, both Industrial 4.0 and digitalizations. The region's investment in smart city is also largely depending on the digitalization as well. It is an important example that will benefit the society and economy recovery in the next normal. Before we go into today's topic, I'd like to give you a quick look at some of the ways Delta could address the smart city of tomorrow. as you just saw, there are many ways we could co-work together with our partners and to create an exciting and sustainable smart city life in the next normal. And today we have brought industrial experts together to discuss about digital transformation and also the data center solutions and also smart city infrastructure and also what we so-called smart building solutions. The data from Line shows that from the start of the pandemic, users' dependence on the digital platform has significantly increased like many parts of the world. This change in our behavior is speeding up the shift from the offline to online, and in turn provide many business opportunities for ICT solutions and infrastructure. For example, Delta has been installing power backup solution over 50 hospitals in Thailand since 2018. This helps to secure power at key hospitals during this year's COVID-19 crisis. On top of the several successful data center solution installation in Thailand, Delta has recently implemented the first Uptime Institute Tier 3 certification, or we so-called TCCF Green Data Center in Vietnam with 99.982% uptime. And because street light is also such kind of key element in the smart city, Delta's smart pole is enhancing city life not only with LED technology, but also providing real-time for the environment information and the surveillance in the city. This helps residents feel safer, live better, and save a lot of more energies as well. Another thing what we'd like to talk about is the Thailand, especially on the automotive industry. And Thailand is one of the regional leaders in the automotive industry. Our friends from EBAT has reported that Thai residents and the Thai drivers registered over 160,000 EV cars by the end of June 2020. So we think that this is the right time to invite our partners and also the governments and the automotive industry to really talk about the pandemic impact on the green transportation and what new technology and innovation we could really expect in the next normal of our living life. Delta is a strong advocate on the global environmental conservation, and we also play a very pioneering role in EV infrastructure setup. And Delta installed the first DC ultra-fast chargers in Indonesia, and this is the only charger which in the world that could charge 4 cars at the same time. We also provide the first DC ultra-fast charger in Singapore for the country's largest transportation company. Our EV charging solutions ranges from AC to DC, which is provide charging for all the requirements of EV applications. Indoor air qualities and the smart home solutions is also one of the key things we are really looking into for today's discussion. Especially the air pollution has become a serious problem. From the chart you could see, WHO has also revealed that people living in the urban area are likely to face the health risk caused by air pollution. And this is the report data from Kasensa University. Also shows the average daily PM 2.5. You see Thailand since 2011, we are quite record high in here. So therefore, in our final panel discussion today, we have invited industrial experts and to share about the technologies and the focus on the next normal regarding smart building and also the area we're going to lead. So air quality is the key things we need to make sure that we are quite comfortably in the city and in our building. So I believe now our partner from the construction and property developer sectors, they could really providing an even safer and more comfortable clean air solutions with Delta's indoor air qualities. And you can enjoy a smart green lifestyle at home and in the office. So before we kick off the panel discussion today, I would like to take the opportunity to thank all the frontline healthcare workers in Thailand and around the world for the sacrifice and the risk they are undertaking on a daily basis. Thank you. And last but not the least, I would like to thank you all for joining us during this challenging time, and we turn the COVID-19 crisis into next normal and also opportunities. And I hope you will find this summit will be beneficiary to you all and a chance to get to meet and to discuss with the new possibility, collaboration, and the future. Thank you. ขอบคุณมากครับ
Thank you very much Mr. Jackie Chang เมื่อสักครู่นะคะคุณแจ็คกี้ก็นำ
Just now, Jackie talked about the directions of Delta Electronics heading towards innovations and new technologies that is greener for the environment and for sustainability as well.
Development for smarter living in the next normal for Thailand ในลำดับต่อไปค่ะวิทยากรนะคะจะขึ้นมาพูดในหัวข้อกุญแจสำคัญของการพัฒนาเทคโนโลยี Smart Living ภายในที่อยู่อาศัยสำหรับวิถีชีวิตใหม่ของประเทศไทยขอเสียงปรบมือต้อนรับคุณวชิรชัยคูนำ
Please welcome Wachirachai Kunam Watana, Head of Living Solutions Business, SCG Cement Building Materials Company Limited. Good morning. Good morning, Jackie Chang, and our Delta executives, distinguished guests. Today I represent SCG. My name is Wachirachai Kunam Watana. I'm Head of Living Solutions Business. It's a pride and a pleasure to be here with Delta Future Industry Summit today. And I want to talk about something that is related to several things that we have mentioned. In the booth outside, I saw many solutions that are interesting. I heard about smart cities and ecosystems. In terms of technologies, I think Delta and many distinguished guests are the experts. So I want to talk about something, a perspective that would be helpful for everybody in these industries. Let me start. There's a little change in my topic today. It's a key technology development for smarter living in the next normal. I will touch a little on the technologies, but I want to talk about next normal a bit. And of course, when we talk about next normal, right away we think about this important event that disrupted everything, that is COVID-19. And that was not it. You see that the infection rate is still steadily climbing up, and there will be next waves, definitely. So it is not over yet. We are not out of the woods to move on to the next normal. But there are things that showed that we respond to it quite well, especially in Thailand. Just now, Jackie talked about healthcare workers. I know that you feel the same, that they are working on the front line and they have done well, keeping us safe. especially all relevant parties, that made Thailand and many other countries today respond well to COVID-19. Speaking of technologies, let me touch upon this. During COVID-19, we have seen many things that helped us respond to the pandemic. Of course, one thing that we have learned is about social distancing, wearing masks, washing your hands. These are the things that we need to observe to keep ourselves safe. But technologies have played a role in here, and it's related to what's happening from now in the next normal as well. I myself has helped. I was part of the fight against COVID. We have developed innovations. That is the COVID unit in the modular form in the top left picture that have kept the doctors and nurses safe. But at the time, until now, we have seen so many innovations. Going everywhere, you have to scan the application called Thaichana, that is a digital technology. It's an innovation that helped us. And there are many other things. And these can be leveraged in the next normal. When we talk about next normal, something to think about is that the next normal actually does not start from COVID-19, but it began to be accelerated by the pandemic. What we see as the next normal, someone think it is provisional, but what will be the next normal for real? At the time, we had to go and hoard the hand sanitizer, but right now it's available everywhere. That's provisional, temporary, but the next normal for real has been going on for a while, but COVID accelerated it and told us that it is the future. Let me give you some examples. Some people have not ordered food delivery online, and you have tried it during this time. You have not watched Netflix. You have now, because the cinema is closed. These things had been going on for a long time. But with the COVID pandemic, it forced everybody to try, and it became a new behaviors for consumers. And that goes into all industries. Digital disruption does not come from the technologies, but it comes from consumer behaviors that are enabled, empowered to use digital technologies. So that is going to happen in all industries. The next thing that happened is the health concerns. It has become more important. People started to think about how to keep themselves safe. If you remember, you don't want to go to hospital. You don't want to get infected from there. And many places had telemedicine, speaking to the doctors. And the telemedicine that in the past, you were not very sure whether that's a good thing. Now you learned that it's going to be a thing in the near future. And many people are looking into it and see what else could help us keep ourselves healthier. And what we see more, people stay at home more. You remember the government said the government would subsidize the electricity bill because you spend more time at home. That is not just in Thailand that people observed. Their use of power and the climate change were important. And apart from the panic of the pandemic, after the panic, it will go away, but it is not. And today, with the crisis we are facing, some of them are from the climate change. These trends have been going on for a long time, but it's been accelerated by COVID-19. My team, we have some of the advisors for the green buildings, and we also work with Delta Industry Technologies on the green buildings. And we see that power conservation has been a trend for a long time, and it's been gaining traction. How to do the green buildings and reduce the impact to the environment. And people started to talk about the livable buildings as well, the well-being buildings, like WELL standards that's been adopted more. These are the trend that is emerging even before COVID-19. But with COVID-19, the focus and attention has been focused more on this during the pandemic. Those are the trends and the next normal. What's interesting as well? Well, the topic that I'm speaking of, smart living in the next normal. I want to invite you all to think about this, the definition of the next normal and smart living. Just now, Jackie talked about smart cities, and we saw the images of the smart cities. And I believe that solutions from Delta that we see in the booths outside inspires to imagine many things. But what is actually smart cities? Let's think about it. Actually, the definition, a simple definition that I have heard, we use the smart technologies to solve the city's problems. In the past, when cities have problems, well, there are many problems. Before this, when it rained, we had traffic jam. We had the flood, the temporary flood, and the powers and the waste management. What happened is that in the past, when we solved the problems in the cities, we used traditional ways, conventional ways. But with technologies, there are many technologies and solutions that helped us solve the problems better. So smart cities are actually how the cities use technologies to solve their problems. If we begin and start with technologies, that's one perspective. But what about if we base our thinking on the problems? And I see interesting topics on the panels, on a couple of questions with the urban communities, with the help of technologies to improve the livelihood of people in the urban cities. So the smart living in the next normal, for me, it would mean to use technologies to solve problems of living in the cities. So many problems, actually. So I would like to zoom in to just a couple of problems. That is the buildings. Problems in the cities. As I told you that what we are facing right now is the climate change and the well-being concerns. Do you know that in the buildings right now, how much energy does it consume? I was alarmed with these figures, and I asked my team whether that is real. Believe it or not, in Thailand, the electricity that we use in 1 year would emit carbon dioxide up to 11 megatons. And that is equal to 850,000 square kilometers of forest to absorb. We need a forest that is bigger than the country itself to absorb the emission from our power consumption. So that is clear that this cannot go on. Are there any solutions to help that? Well, from the electricity that we use, 44% are from building. You see that if we manage the energy efficiency in the buildings, that will contribute a lot to the problem's solution. On the right, we never thought, but from a study, we spend 90% indoors and only 10% outdoors. Imagine that in the buildings that we live in 90% of the time, the environment indoors, do they keep you healthy? For example, the pollutants. We talked about PM 2.5 outside. We can keep it away. But think about the pandemic, the germs. They're more inside than outside. So the energy, the well-being concerns, there are problems to it. But can we solve it with technologies? That's interesting. And the technologies that we can use to solve this problem, I looked at it. First, what are the technologies out there? We see the digital technologies like IoT and many other things. And you may have looked at what Delta has to offer. Some of them are applicable, very applicable. But to make it most effective, we have to mix it with the deep technology knowledge. And in each industries, we have varying levels of deep technology knowledge. And if we combine the two, we can create so many technologies that solve the problems. And I have prepared some examples as an idea. Apart from the combination of technologies, I heard the word ecosystem. And I think that is very key to this topic. You see that the problem is this big. The problem cities face, we face. And no one alone can solve this problem. We need collaboration. We need the synergy. And ecosystem is how we integrate the strengths of different parties. It's very apparent when we fight COVID. If you notice, we have solutions that solve the problems, and we synergize. And many things happened in a short time. So developing technologies to solve the problems is very possible through ecosystem and collaboration. Let me give you some examples of technologies that combined deep technology and digital technologies and partnerships. These are the things that the team from SCG has explored, and we hope we can collaborate with you on these. Like in energy, think about energy efficiency. We have great equipment, but we found one technology from our partner. If we can reduce consumption in another way, on top of everything that we have in a building, the source of heat is the need of fresh air. If you are in HVAC, you will know that OA that comes in, that is really necessary because we need that to drive away the bad air. And what happens would be the humidity and heat. If we can reduce that, and if we can recondition the stale air using this deep tech, that will reduce the need of the use of fresh air and energy in turn. With the combination of existing technologies, we can do something new with it. Or IoT. We have several digital IoT technologies. And this one we found it by ourselves. with a building, maybe with old building, for example, a university building with so many rooms. Some rooms had air conditioner on the whole day without anybody using it. And how do we manage that? There's some simple technologies that help us manage that. If the room is not used, then the air con is off automatically. And also the disinfection technologies. We found this interesting technology that releases the ions and reduce the number of viruses. These are small technologies, but if they combine with the partners' expertise, that could create a change and impact in our next normal. I talked about the buildings, but you see that smart cities have buildings, transportation, and many other things. And if we can develop a technology together, join forces together, we can improve the quality of life in the urban communities. That is something that I want to leave with you, and that could be beneficial. And thank you so much for having us as a part of this event. Thank you very much, Kun Shirachai. Please stay on the stage. Thank you very much, the two. And we are going into the next session. For this panel discussion, it's about the cutting-edge data center solutions for the next normal digital transformation. And our speakers, I will invite them on the stage. First, Chief Technology Officer of Lineman Wong Nai, Pattarawut Sungsittisawatt. Please welcome. Managing Director, Oracle Thailand, Mr. Tawisak Sangtong. Head of Data Center, True Internet Data Center, True IDC, Wachirapong Burapachon. And Communications Information Solutions Regional Director, Kun Sakda Saeung from Delta Electronics. Good morning, all the four. Our time is quite limited, so we will use it wisely. And if you extend it, I will try to use telepathy to speak to you. First, let's start with Kun Pattarawut. Just now, we heard so many terms. I would like to talk about AI and data center, how they're related, and what could the two help improve the experience for the customers, please. Well, talking about AI, actually to have AI work, we need a lot of data as the basis of the AI's brain. And to have a lot of data, we need some inputs of the data collection. So data center is very important to that. If we're a tech company to build the infrastructures ourselves to support that, it will take a long time. But if we have the data centers with the expertise, that would be better. And with AI, we can improve the user's experience in several ways. For example, in Wong Nai, in the past, we use AI a lot. One challenge that we had is to improve the search results for the restaurants. Usually, users have varying needs. Some people like a kind of food. One person, another person like a different kind of food with prices and everything as factors. And if we have a very unique favorite things, AI would be able to help offer something that is unique to that person. And if we want to show the results of the restaurants, users would want to see pictures that represent that outlet well. And when we collect pictures from the users, they're not organized, and we don't know which one would represent the restaurants better. But with AI, that could help solve us the problem. And in the search result, when the users come in and search, they will spend less time to get to know the restaurants and get to know the restaurants that they want. Another example, since people know Wong Nai as a food review app, and reviews are from users, which has a tremendous amount. And if you want to know a place, and there are hundreds of reviews, in order to know everything that are on the review, it's impossible. So we need a kind of a brain, AI brain, to capture things that are common themes from all the reviews. Maybe a lot of people talk about a menu item or the services, because the services in a restaurant is excellent, for example. Or if people talk about how it is spicy in this restaurant, that is something that a user needs to be aware of. So to get AI to be able to capture all these, we need the data, including the usage data and the user's input or their application use. These are the things that will improve the app user experience, and service experience would be improved. Thank you very much. Let's come to Oracle Thailand. Let me ask Khun Tawisak about the trend for big data. What are the trends out there for big data, and what are the solutions that companies should have? Thank you very much. Let me begin with this, with something relevant to us, close to home. Big data and AI and cloud and machine learnings of these cutting-edge technologies are not very far away from us. Before we talk about data centers and things we should have, let's look at something very close to home. First, I believe that in this next normal time, the time to market is very important. And time to market, if you remember, about March or April, everybody panicked. And the government said, if there's a spreader, how do we track them? And we had a Thai Chana app coming out. That's an example. In the past, we have to appreciate the government agencies, Krung Thai Bank, and the government agencies that launched the app that trace our visits to restaurants and places, the time to market was quick. With a minimum viable products, we don't need it to be perfect, but we want it to work. In the past, it takes months, 5 to 6 months for an app to come out. But now we are talking about days or weeks. Once they are launched, the apps that came out the problems is that the system was down so frequently. So when it comes to the market and gain tractions, it have to be able to scale into an enterprise performance. And what's more important, if you remember some of the apps that came out, many people are not very sure about the confidentiality, about the security, that is about data security. All these are very close to ourselves. And that already happened. It is not even the future. Time to market, scalability, and data security. All these three aspects are not nice to have. They're needs to have. And we need it today. And what are the technologies that can help? In the data center technologies, which is the topic of this panel, first, it is the autonomous or automation. Autonomous cars are the cars where cars can run without the drivers. They can get from one point to another point without any drivers. And that already happens. And it reduces accidents. Because we drive, it is prone to human errors. But AI can help predict what happened. That is important in data center. Autonomous work in data center would do the patching, self-patching, and configuration, autonomous configuration. Sometimes the system's down because of the bad configuration by human errors. And that doesn't mean people will lose jobs. But humans have to understand how to live with the technologies and AI and give it life, make it fun, and make it beneficial for the economy. This autonomy will help data security as well. For example, just now the speaker talked about new normal, and we saw the video calls. Anyone use Zoom? If you remember, in March or April, everybody was on lockdown, and we used Zoom a lot, and there was a case that the system was not very secure, and Zoom stock market, stock price went down. So they had to ensure the data security and smoothness, uninterrupted operations. Autonomous work would help. And just now we talked about AI and machine learning. It plays an important role in this technology world. If there's a hacker come in, this AI matching will trace and track the behaviors and determine the risks. These are the technologies that are required in the data centers. Right, talk about data centers, let's turn to True, because the needs for edge data center is very high because it helps with link with the cloud and other technologies. When we talk about edge technologies, let me talk about 3 layers. The first layers, the IoT devices that are machine-to-machine communication, and the edge is the second layer, the compute layer, and the third layer is the data center and cloud, because all these will happen in the cloud. So the use case that we see would be the smart farmings for IoT devices, like the tractors, autonomous tractors. We would install the IoT devices if there's a ranch where the tractors have to work in. We can just leave the tractors to plow all these land. But if we have more than one tractor, how do we avoid collision and allocate the areas in the land? And if one tractor is down, can the second tractor go and help the first one? So this will help in the processing because the edge will be the real-time data processing. It will process that there's one problem with the first tractor and the second will help. And if there's someone walking by or some obstruction ahead, it will speed down. It will cause and then avoid collision. The edge computing will help with the 5G, with the low latency connections. So machine-to-machine communications or edge data centers need that speed and low latency connection. And the big amount of data, the edge computing will be a small processing unit, but the data will be in a larger storage, maybe in a cloud or in a private data center. So these three layers will work together. But the edge data center in Thailand, do we have a lot? No. Because it's being used in smart cities and smart farmings with a lot of compute. We need to place them, the edge data center, close to the machines. So we will increase the number of edge data centers, and the growth of these machines will also grow. And what follows will be the power consumption. As SEG speaker said, we consume a lot of power in data center as well. When we talk to the PEA and MEA, they would be quite surprised that this one building require 20 or 40 megawatts. In other countries, they can use up to 100 megawatts for large data centers. So that is coming up in the near future. Thank you very much. Let's come back to Sakda from Delta. Can you talk about the technologies for data center? What kind of technologies is suitable for the businesses in Thailand? Well, from what we've heard today, there are several keywords, including the time to market, about the energy consumption, and flexibility. In this new normal, the AI and big data has been playing a big role. In the past, data centers, we would imagine a room with the floors, with the walls set up specifically for it. And it takes years to set up this kind of data center. But for the new normal, first, we need the fast deployment to build the data centers quicker so that we have a space for the storage in a timely manner to respond to the needs. For Delta, we have the solutions that include the prefabricated data centers using the container. And if we want the edge computing with the processing close to us, the data centers will have to be in the places that is not conventional anymore. With the air conditioning, it will be in the remote areas, in harsh environments. And the data centers, we have to be durable. They have to endure the harsh environment and be flexible enough to be placed anywhere. A factory, for example, needs smart manufacturing, but they don't have the space. If we use the prefabricated data centers, it can be placed in a place equipped with the IT equipment, software, and implemented right away. But with growing data, with growing needs of AI and edge computing, the power consumption will grow as well. We need also the energy efficiency. And we don't forget that all our equipment has been made with the consideration of the power consumption, with the UPS and cooling. So there are most energy efficient solutions. And that will lead to the total cost of ownership that is minimal as well. So businesses can grow and leverage all these technologies in the future. Thank you very much. I have a couple of questions before we open the floor for questions. Let's come back to Lineman and Wong Nai. Just now you talked about AI, big data, that extracts the user's preferences. I just watched Social Dilemma in Netflix, and then it got me to think that everything I see on the screens are my preferences, and there won't be any diversification, right? Well, that depends on the developers as well. Developers have to think about that. If you search for a restaurant and you just frequent one restaurant, and the AI would remember that you like this kind of food and you can explore any new things. That's something that we discussed very often. Actually, it is our job to expand or push the envelope for the users. If you do some platforms like this, you have to think about this as well. You have to suggest new things so that users expand their preferences, because in that way they can make more money. They can, because for example, Facebook, they would have more ad properties because the interest of people expanded, have space, more space to expand, for so to say. Coming back to Kun Adisak, I have a question about machine learning. People said it's better than humans. In terms of errors, it's almost none, right? Is that true? Maybe there's no error, but it goes the wrong way altogether, isn't it? Well, that's a good question. What we experience right now with AI and machine learning, comparing to human behaviors, think about this. Activities that we do, we need the knowledge, we need to collect information, and we spend time learning about it. But AI, machine learning, big data and cloud, the speed of learning is much faster than humans. For example, the routine jobs. What I'm talking about, the routine. Say, we are in a data center and there are routines to patch, to apply the bug fixes and upgrades. Speaking of routine work, we have to admit that technologies has a cutting edge because it doesn't have any flexibilities. In routine jobs, there are human errors, but AI and machine learning, when it's a routine job, it is less prone to errors. But if there's a higher value kind of jobs that is non-routine, well, we don't lose jobs, but we have to upgrade ourselves to work on higher value jobs that the technologies can keep up. As I heard, the key point is about the energy, right? Consumption of energy. Are there any solutions to the data center apart from generate more? Well, there are two ways. If we use more, we need to get the electrical provider to feed us more. And that impacts the environment. And the providers right now, they're they've prepared because we see the trends of the consumption growth. But for the data center service providers, we have to try and make it efficient. In our data centers, we try to use AI to help reduce the consumption. For the equipment in the data center, if you have the server storage network equipment, of course, when we compute something, it will consume a lot of electricity. Non-compute time, it will be 2-3 kilowatts, but when in a compute time, it will be up to 8 kilowatts. So with increase in the consumption, what happens is that these equipment needs cooling. So the cooling systems will also spend and consume more energy. So when AI works, it will be up and down. But if we fix the cooling, that you will keep it at a maximum speed. You will have over refrigeration during the minimal processing. So we use AI to capture this. Many of the AI providers are very good with the humidity and temperature. They can adjust the air conditioner. But if the trend goes up, it will auto-adjust this cooling equipment to work harder. And that keeps the power usage more effective. So if the PE is good, then we help the generators to reduce the consumption. Now let's come back to the energy. What are the technologies out there that we can use? Just now that the speaker from True said, for the data centers, cooling would consume 40% of the data center's total consumption, the highest of all. And I also have the challenge from True as well to get Delta's AI and smart solutions help learn the behaviors of the data center's power consumption with self-adjustments of different components, including the coolant source and the fans, to respond to the actual needs of the customers at the time, so that the demands are met. And if there's over refrigeration, it can be adjusted down in response to the actual needs. Right now, we are implementing these AI and IoT devices and building automation to integrate in the data centers more. We started to link all these with the cloud and IoT devices so that there's a learning and big data collection and optimize the consumption of all the devices and the equipment. Now, questions from the audience. If you have any questions, please fire away. Raise your hand and we'll have the microphone run to you. Since we have all the 4 experts, it's rare to have them at the same place at the same time. Any question? Don't be shy. Any question? If not, then let me ask a question myself. The solutions for different types of businesses, maybe you have some advices for the audience. Well, business solutions. If it is related to lineman and Wong Nai, there are 2 things. First, for the tech startups. If we are to build a new business with the technologies, time to market is important. If you have some idea and you want to implement it quick, data center is very important, and consideration of the use of cloud computing would help you with the time to market. For Lineman and Wong Nai, it's related to restaurants and the food deliveries. In the past, we saw that with the pandemic, we learned that for restaurants to survive, food delivery is very important. You don't need the storefront anymore. If you have a space, or even if nobody knows where you are, you can sell. So the solutions for the food include tools like POS or apps that enables restaurants to manage their outlets, to include menus items to show on the apps. These are the things that restaurants shouldn't have to reinvent the wheels. They should focus on the food. And the management and the other management, if that's not their focus, they can let experts help. So technologies and the solutions, two things. Thank you very much, Kun Tawisak. Do you have any suggestions? Well, I want to spend a short time to talk about something that all of us are very close to it. For example, the food delivery. But what you will see in the very near future in Thailand, believe it or not, you have heard about the experience economy, right? In the past, when we want to wave down a taxi, you have to go to the curbside. But right now, you don't have to, or the food delivery as well. So all this data that is generated, there will be a next wave that will help you get a very different experience. Let's say next week, there's a motor show. I can use the data from everyone in this room, including your paycheck, your car purchase, or food deliveries. If I have partner ecosystems, I will understand. Jackie, I have an offer for Mercedes-Benz, and I have a specific offer. You don't have to go and get a loan. You don't have to go to insurance, and you don't have to visit motor show. I have my partner ecosystem with insurance company, service center, the banks, with a new model that offers you with a very special interest rate and conditions. Are there any risk to me? No, because I know, Mr. Jackie, I know from circumstantial data. So these things will happen. If you have questions, and well, it's been busy and you just want to learn about the conditions, we have the digital systems where you can inquire. It is not a chatbot, because the chatbot will be the routine questions, but we have the digital assistants that is predictive answering. Sometimes you call the call centers and the lines are busy, and sometimes they can't answer you. So this will be the new experience that create new business opportunities. Another example, today, the cloud technology that we are talking about, AI machine learning, help manage human resources. Everybody has team members and organizations that you manage, right? For talents in your team, if there's a sign that they want to leave us, you know, sometimes you have hundreds of people under you. It's difficult for you to get to know them that close. But with the technologies, you can learn from that. You can learn with the HR cloud management. We can do the online trainings, and you can look at the punch cards or the time in, time out records. If someone is not participating in the activities, the machine learning will analyze the behaviors. If the talents, the top performers are not going to be with us, we can prevent that, because if they tender resignation, that will be too late. So in the past, businesses said, that's okay. We have ways to manage that. But in the future, the cloud technologies that we talk about today will be a very important thing to have. Isn't that personal data? Is that a violation? Well, in organizations using cloud, GDPR, well, in terms of data outside of the organizations, personnel will have to accept, just like in terms of cookies, terms and conditions, you have to accept it. It goes the same way. You can opt out from giving information, but sometimes you don't have the time to or opportunity to opt out, like the car offer. You know the profile. I don't want you to know. Well, that depends. Based on the assumption that Jackie allowed me to use that. Someone called me every day. I don't know how they get the telephone number. Well, the insurance company, sometimes they are a nuisance. Sometimes I have the credit card from a bank and they just call me and keep calling me. That's a waste of time instead of getting that personnel to spend more time in a more productive way. Well, if you look at AI and big data to support, well, all companies, all organizations look to profit, right? If we use AI or big data to help, we need to have the promotions to improve our sales and product offers, or improve the services. If, for example, we have a true use case where we have the AI to help answer questions. If you go to TrueMove website, there's an AI that help provide information about the packages, about the data plans. If you have the purchasing power of a certain levels, they will provide the answers appropriately. And if you have problems using the phones or internet, you can go into the website or the iService application to ask questions. Sometimes you call the call center, you don't get a line, or the lines are always busy, but this self-service will help you. And we have several patterns of answers. All these patterns are hosted in through IDC, so we will see the trends and the growth of the usage, especially in the pandemic time. They have grown so rapidly. So I think we should use AI and big data to help improve the services and to help improve the promotion in the future. You see that in this panel, we have the applications. We have the software provider. We have True, which is the data center infrastructure and the connectivity. What's quite a challenge for Thai businesses is the lack of a platform to link all these players together. Just now, Lineman said, if a startup wants to do some business, for example, if they want to do a smart city project, they need to buy an application, software, get a data center, and do several things. And there's nobody doing something of a platform. So the challenge now, if a business can create a platform that enable people to conduct their businesses in a smarter way, the new businesses will grow faster. And Delta is looking for partners and ecosystem partners to create this platform to enable Thai entrepreneurs to succeed faster. Thank you very much. Our speakers. We have a short coffee break. Can you please come back at 11, please? Thank you very much.
Delta Delta Building Automation Solutions are based on an open IoT platform and are capable of consolidating vital equipment monitoring and control to enhance energy saving and operation efficiency, as well as to improve building management performance. Whether it is air conditioning, lighting, a water supply system, security and access control, or any other subsystem in the building, Delta Solutions make sure every user scenario is precisely considered and further consolidated with an optimized operation mode. Delta's Global Energy Management can provide an integrated analysis of building energy consumption to help optimize a building's energy savings. With years of experience in system integration, Delta continues to provide comfort, health, energy efficiency, and safety in building environments. Smarter, greener, together. Delta Building Automation Solutions are based on an open IoT platform and are capable of consolidating vital equipment monitoring and control to enhance energy saving and operation efficiency, as well as to improve building management performance. Whether it is air conditioning, lighting, a water supply system, security and access control, or any other subsystem in the building, Delta Solutions make sure every user scenario is precisely considered and further consolidated with an optimized operation mode. Delta's Global Energy Management can provide an integrated analysis of building energy consumption to help optimize a building's energy savings. With years of experience in system integration, Delta continues to provide comfort, health, energy efficiency, and safety in building environments. Smarter, greener, together. Delta Building Automation Solutions are based on an open IoT platform and are capable of consolidating vital equipment monitoring and control to enhance energy saving and operation efficiency, as well as to improve building management performance. Whether it is air conditioning, lighting, a water supply system, security and access control, or any other subsystem in the building, Delta Solutions make sure every user scenario is precisely considered and further consolidated with an optimized operation mode. Delta's Global Energy Management can provide an integrated analysis of building energy consumption to help optimize a building's energy savings. With years of experience in system integration, Delta continues to provide comfort, health, energy efficiency, and safety in building environments. Smarter, greener, together. Delta Building Automation Solutions are based on an open IoT platform and are capable of consolidating vital equipment monitoring and control to enhance energy saving and operation efficiency, as well as to improve building management performance. Whether it is air conditioning, lighting, a water supply system, security and access control, or any other subsystem in the building, Delta Solutions make sure every user scenario is precisely considered and further consolidated with an optimized operation mode. Delta's Global Energy Management can provide an integrated analysis of building energy consumption to help optimize a building's energy savings. With years of experience in system integration, Delta continues to provide comfort, health, energy efficiency, and safety in building environments. Smarter, greener, together. Delta Building Automation Solutions are based on an open IoT platform and are capable of consolidating vital equipment monitoring and control to enhance energy saving and operation efficiency, as well as to improve building management performance. Whether it is
ขอเรียนเชิญนะคะท่านผู้มีเกียรติ
Distinguished guests, outside, please reconvene in this room so that we will begin our next session. If you're still outside, please be back soon. We are beginning. All right, let's begin our next session. And our panelists include Assistant Governor of Provincial Electricity Authority, Mr. Kobchai Gaovishian. And the next panelist, President of the Electric Vehicle Association of Thailand, Mr. Grisada Uttamot. And Energy Infrastructure Solutions Southeast Asia Business Director, Delta Electronics Thailand, Mr. Kittisak Ngan Ngok Ngam. Let's begin with PEA, Provincial Electricity Authority. These days, the power transmission, is it ready? We talked about EV, but what about generation, electricity generation? Well, speaking of that, let me show the slides so that you'll be confident that I'm speaking of the real things. Well, overall, we have enough electricity. There's no slide then. The electricity system, the high voltage and the low voltage. Of course, let alone the high voltage, that's already sufficient. But the transformer from high voltage to low voltage and the households, is it enough? Looking at the figure until 2030, the systems before getting to that point. We have projects to increase the number of transformers in place. By 2030, for the low voltage transformers will account for 21 megawatts. That's in the plan. But the loads for household consumption, let alone the EV, it's about 15,000 megawatts. So there's some gaps, some excess to the plan. By 2030, if we have a lot of EVs running, there should be about 400,000 vehicles, or about 60%. And most of them will be in the PEA grid network, about 200,000 or 300,000. The rest will be with MEA. And with the increase of 200,000 vehicles, the load will increase by 2,000 megawatts. We have up to 21,000 megawatts. So of course we can accommodate the growth in EVs. So let's come back to Kun Grisada. EV is a trend and it's growing, right? Well, from EVAT, we get the statistics from the Land Transportation Department for the total hybrid and PHEV. We have about 160,000. But for new registrations, there's a set of data last year for EV, including car and motorcycles. It's 15,000 registrations last year. But with this year's first half, EV's new registration is about 3,000, which is more than last year's the whole year. So by the end of this year, we will see a leap in the new registration by this year. And with this leap, actually, there's a very restricted number of players. We have about 41. We have about 11 models. And the price range is very wide, from $500,000 to several millions. So we have options, and they respond to the needs in the urban lives. So the growth is there. Kun Kittisak, are there any solutions that will accelerate the adoption of EV? Well, as Jackie said this morning, this year we have new chargers called DC quick charger coming in, and with higher wattage to 100 kilowatts, 250 kilowatts. And next year we have a new model of 200 kilowatts models. These are high power chargers with the capabilities to charge quicker and supports more than one vehicles. The existing models with the installed chargers, even though they have two plugs, they can only charge one vehicle. But the new models can charge up to 4 vehicles at the same time. And that will be one factor that customers will become more interested, because the innovation of the chargers can help them charge quicker. They're more modern in a way that they can work with the IoT devices and they can communicate among the stations and the control. For example, if we have two plugs, we can set up or configure the chargers to charge two vehicles at the same time, or charge the first vehicle to 100% first, and when it's up to 25%, it will complete the rest. When the first 25% for the first car, after that, they can move to complete the first 25% of the second vehicle, and so on. That is with the charging stations, right? Speaking of the charging stations, what about the legality aspect of it? I understand that if you want to sell the electricity, that you have to be the electricity authorities. What about private chargers? Well, the charging stations is a business that anyone can do, but you have to get yourself registered with the regulators. I have to explain that three electricity authorities, MEA, EGAT, and PEA, we don't have all the freedoms. We have one regulator that regulates us. On the generation, on the distribution, we need the licenses. And private sector players can also get the licenses. And people who produce electricity and distribute, not just the three authorities. The same goes with charging stations. You need a license. Just like you buy a license, there's a law governing that you need to get registered and you need to have a driving license to drive. And it's not a monopolized business restricted for the PEA or MEA. But you are ready to get this infrastructure up. We have foreseen this 5 or 6 years back, and we had conducted R&D on the technologies, on the feasibilities and the forecast, and we started with the R&D, and we sell electricities, right? And we can just sit there and wait and sell it, but we didn't. We thought that comparing to the internal combustion, EV is cleaner in the green transportation effort. So we realized that, and we started with the research. We wanted to know about the vehicles and also the charging stations. We brought in Nissan Leaf, the first Nissan Leaf in Thailand, and we did the research of the charging stations at our headquarters, and we know it is not just plug in the wall outlets and that's it. We installed it at the headquarters and we had to scale that. So we installed it in the neighboring provinces in Bangkok, in the greater Bangkok, in the northeast, in Chang, in the east. We went to Chonburi, Pattaya, and in the west, Nakhon Pathom, and down to the south at Hua Hin district. So we had 11 stations. With this research, we thought about the management, and we wanted these to be providing secured services. So we did study continuously, and we allowed users to charge for free on these stations. When we become confident that they can provide the services, 1st of September, we started charging fees because the systems are out there with IoT and everything. So consumers can come and pay using the prepaid card or use the applications to pay for the fee, and they can book the chargers. And we opened 5 stations for that, and the remaining 6 stations we are improving them before launching for commercial services. Is it enough? No, it is not. And we have plans to deploy within December this year. We will have 20 more stations deployed. And early next year, we have 42 other stations. So in total, we will have 73 stations. Since we are a government state enterprise, we have to serve all the models. We have the DC systems, 2 DC systems, and they're all installed. So by March, we have 73 stations. Mostly, they're along the way to Nakhon Ratchasima province, and the east and the south. And in the future, we think, with our capacity as a state agency, we need to give the confidence to the users and also people who sell EVs that when they buy the cars can really run and keep running. So we will build the charging stations on the main roads of Thailand. Every 100 kilometers back and forth, there will be PEAs, charging stations in all the provinces. Each province at least 1 charging station, and at tourist attractions and border provinces. So by the mid of next year and early 2022, we will have 190 more stations. So in total, we will have 263 stations, about 1,000 chargers for DC and 363 AC chargers. That's the infrastructure work that we need to go ahead to pave the way and create confidence for the drivers, for the motorists, and for the investors as well. Because we're not doing this alone. MEA and EGAT also do this. And we have partners in EVAT with the president sitting here. We work together. So we are confident that the network of these chargers and EV users will grow very fast. And we have the same goal with the president of EVAT. But the chargers stations, we develop them ourselves. And we worked with universities to develop a system with the protocols and management systems. We can rely on ourselves. We have 2 systems right now. So if anyone wants to start charging stations and you need management systems, we can help you with that. But as we are a state agency, we are doing this as a pilot to create confidence, but we are not going to compete with the private sector. We want to hold hand with them and then develop this along the road. So the president of EVAT, can you share with us what you have collaborated on? In the infrastructure part, the current status is that we have 1,800 chargers in 160 locations. In some locations, we have AC and DC combinations. For us, we work with private and also state enterprises. So the infrastructure is something that we have been working on for a long time, and we realized that over time, we have providers who invest in the charging stations, and they have their own networks and software, and they're not interconnected. So we discussed in our association that if we let it go like this, it's like a bank. If I am from the green bank and I want to use the ATM from the blue bank, we cannot use the ATM there. That will be difficult. For the app, how many apps I need to have, or how many cards I have to carry. So we talked to our members. It's lucky that we have worked with all the 3 electricity authorities, PTT, and other private organizations. So we wanted to create a charging consortium. You use your own equipment, but all the chargers will have to be portable. And we have to be able to settle the payments. If you are a customer from any of the providers and you use the chargers, the billing will go to the address according to the rates that you use. So the 2 things are under the charging consortium that we signed the MOU in July this year. We had several partners signing this MOU, so now we are going ahead to collaborate and among the 11 partners, state and private enterprises, so that the chargers can support users regardless of the ways to pay using QR code or the cards. That's an initiative that we don't need to wait for anyone, and providers, private sector, and everybody, relevant parties, join forces. And that will give the confidence to the consumers that you have the electricity and chargers. You don't have to go to the shopping malls. You can just look at your mobile phones and book a location, park it there and charge. That's a business model that is going to happen soon. What about the technologies? Delta Technologies, do you have anything to do with the EV vehicles? Well, mainly, as I have informed you, we sell, we are suppliers, and we also design the charging systems, both normal and AC/DC chargers. Technically, we call it off-board chargers. On the other hand, we produce equipment for many automotive manufacturers for BEV, PHEV, or EV, or hybrid. They are onboard chargers. We produce the traction inverter onboard charger and many other components that are part of the EVs currently. And that means we are the only company with the technologies in our hands on both sides, onboard chargers and off-board chargers at the charging stations. And that means Delta's chargers, when they charge any of the brands of vehicles, they can charge. They work, both AC and DC. And as the Assistant Governor and the President of the Association said about the charging consortium, Delta's equipment is compliant to one standard requirement called OCP, Open Charging Protocol, that needs to be there in the chargers to communicate and control the systems, and also in the billing and interoperability in data collection and status tracking of the machines. Station A and Station B There are different places. Are there anybody using it? Can you book it? And what is your queue number in line? That's the protocol. And the IoT system in our machines is ready to interoperate with EVAT's charging consortium. Right? Let me ask Kun Krisada a question before opening the floor. For you in the audience, if you have not decided whether to go ahead with EVs, even Kun Lerchai said there's an infrastructure to support it, but well, the gas is not too expensive. Can I stay with internal combustion? Well, if you can't decide, use the plug-in hybrid then. But that's a transition model. It's a bridge between the internal combustion engine to the EV. I think plug-in hybrid models would respond to the needs of people who are on the fence. Maybe I'm driving from home to office, maybe under 30 kilometers. I can use electricity and there's no emission. Or on a day, I want to go to provinces, I can use gas for that. But in the future, we are looking at the fully BEV. The change, as you may have heard, Elon Musk, who said in the future the batteries will be very thin, but will be very highly efficient. It will be up to 800 kilometers for the new Teslas, and that will respond to the needs of our lifestyles. And they will have a model under $1 million baht, maybe 700,000. So the future is very close. In the past, we had the IEV Tech event in Bitech Bangna with 11 EV models, with the press testing it. And the feedback was really, really good. If you look at the comments from the members of the press who reviewed it, they said they have never felt this way before. Like one of the Porsche that gave a power that get them 2 seconds for 0 to 100 kilometers per hour. It's really new experience. That's the fun in driving, let alone the zero emission. And in the winters that we have PM 2.5, are we contributing in reducing the climate change? Well, people may not think about the performance, but they think about the ownership cost. And that is one thing that the association is trying to overcome. If you buy EVs and buy the insurance, well, the insurance is extremely expensive because insurance think the parts are expensive. And that is a reality in their perspective. So we are collecting information on the standardized repair of the ICE vehicles. But EVs do not have the cylinders, do not have many other parts. They only have the control units and the batteries. So logically, it shouldn't be more expensive. But that is something that we need to talk to the insurance association so that the EV is affordable for everybody. So that is the direction that we are going, as in many other countries. Now let's hear questions from the floor. Are there any questions? There are two. Good morning. I'm from the Engineering Council of Thailand. About the sufficiency of the electricity, I think there's no problem. If not all the 400,000 vehicles would charge at the same time. The comment is that all the three electricity authorities and the manufacturers must help join forces and develop the intelligent chargers that can talk to the grid. Because in the future, you have to charge at home, and we have to enable charging that completes overnight. So we should talk to the grids, that the grid is almost used up, or it is in a peak, and could it wait until the peak is over and then start the charges? Can we develop something that intelligent? Let me answer that. We are doing that. We are working on that. We are developing and commercializing it, but the basic of that question, we are still working on developing that, and we have the studies, and we are going to build on that, because the question came forth since we started this work. With the low voltage transformers, right now we have enough, 21,000 megawatts. And with the growth of the EVs, it will be less than 20,000. But there are some bottlenecks. In a village, in a community, if we have 100 EVs, then there will be some needs. And there must be a system, just like what you said, that connects with the grid and provides a queue. For 100 EVs, everybody comes back and charge at the same time. With this system, it will be allocated, and there must be an intelligent device that will assign the queues so that everybody gets a complete charge by the morning. That's something that we are getting the researchers to do. And that also includes the V2G and the V2 homes, so that we can use the power in the batteries at home to feed the homes as well in emergency. For the forecast of the loads, 400,000 is the preliminary forecast, and earlier we had a meeting between the car makers, and by 2030 we should have about 30% of the XEV vehicles produced. And that means if we produce 2.5 million, 750,000 would be electric vehicles. And with this portion, it means the EVs in this portion that we are going to promote would be more than forecast earlier. Because globally, there's been interest to ban ICE vehicles, and in some European countries, the ICE vehicles would be, their sales would be stopped in Europe, in some European countries. And by 2040, Singapore would not have any ICE registrations. We are looking at that as well, and we are going to adjust to increase the portions and accelerate the growth of EVs. But all these, to get there, the task is with all the relevant parties like PEA on the infrastructure and the technologies. Will the technologies catch up with us, with the growth that we've planned? Because we have the BOI's incentives, and the car makers have submitted their plans. So from now, by 2 years, we will see assembly and production of EVs in Thailand to respond to this goal, and also the government's fleets. Let me add on the technology side. The chargers that we produce, they're smart charging equipment that works with solar PV panels and energy battery storage. For the excess in loads and the peak loads, these smart chargers can manage, and the backup batteries, we can install the energy storage in the energy station, in the charging station. When everybody starts to charge at the same time, they will draw the power from the battery first, not the grid. And during daytimes, we can use the solar panels, and the excess power can also charge into the batteries. We have one example for the home use in the booth outside. It's called hybrid inverter. That's partly an energy storage. It's 5 kilowatts capacity that works with the solar rooftop. And if there's excess power, they can store in the batteries. And the battery supports load shifting, and we can charge our vehicles at night. Thank you very much. Right now, EV users do it for the environment, but there's some arguments that they're charging from fossil fuels generated electricity. Are there any ways to make it really green? And if the number of adoption of EV is more than the forecast, do you have the capacity to support a higher demand? The first one, how to really make it green. Well, electricity system in Thailand with the alternative energy systems, the government and state enterprises have projects to buy alternative energy. I don't know the figure, but for PEA itself, we are buying no less than 4,000 megawatts. But for the charging stations, how do we ensure that they're from the green electricity? Well, we have the model that charging stations, the model charging station at the headquarters are linked with the PV rooftop and the mini storage as well. So part of the power are from the solar panels, and in the next models, in our charging stations that we have installed, we have to add that components. That is something that we thought of too, that we need it to be green. We have the models in place. Another pointed the question, if it grows too fast, that will be electricity authorities' jobs to try and accommodate it. So don't worry about that. In the three authorities, we monitor the loads all the time. It depends on the car's prices. If it's still a couple of millions, then we find it easy. But if it is 1.2 million, it will grow fast. But if it is under a million, then we can't just sit there. And these are like small and medium-sized factories. And factories emerge all the time. And we have to forecast, and it is not too big a load. So rest assured that we are working and doing our best to ensure that we have the power security for all types of consumption. For EVAT, we think the use of EV will reduce pollutions in the urban areas like Bangkok, because we live in the world where transportation is necessary, and the travel mix for the energy plan, there are some changes in the mix. And we don't want to just burn the coal, keep burning the coal, and we are shifting to greener energy sources. But the critical problem right now, like in Bangkok or Chiang Mai, are the pollutions. So transportation systems using alternative energies would resolve that. For Delta, as I have told you, our systems are designed to work as a smart charging systems that work with the PV panels and batteries, and next year we'll have the new model of chargers that can charge the vehicles and also to supply the vehicle's battery to the households. Thank you very much, the three panelists. Thank you. We'd like to invite the panelists. The first one, Executive Vice President, Land and Houses Public Company Limited, คุณชัยยุทธ ชินมหาวงศ์ and Chief Digital Officer, Fraser's Property Thailand, คุณสุภรัตน์ศิวะเพชรนาถสิงหรา ณ อยุธยา Co-founder of Energy Smart, คุณพรพุทธ จารุมงคลศักดิ์ and Mr. Alan Zhao, Building Automation Solutions Business Development Director, Delta Electronics. Let me begin with Land and House. Right now, it's the next normal. People spend time at home. For property developers and suppliers, what's the idea to design and construct houses? Well, COVID-19 is a catalyzer. The customer's lifestyle right now and the future, that is something that we think about, of course. The future is the aging society, and that is one thing that we think of in our house designs. so that the houses are multi-purpose. It can be an office or it can be a bedroom for the seniors. It's fortunate that we have adjusted before this, and during COVID-19, it can be put to good use for the segment of 4 million baht and up to 100 million baht. These are the functions that are integrated in these houses, and we started this for a long time. The indoor air quality, that is something that we studied for 6 years. We call it Air Plus on the basis of the SLA air quality standard with the circulation. These are the criteria in our design, and that is for livable houses. That is the standard that we thought of. 20 years back, it was the big umbrella that we still use in the housing designs to respond to the needs of the customers. But with the COVID-19, we need to top it up with something else for people to live in their house, that people are beginning to relax. And the houses are different from condominiums where there are a lot of common things. So people tend to forget. But they still keep in mind that if there's a pandemic, what would it be like? So that is something that we need to build upon, apart from the use of the house. That is the common areas like the clubhouse. So during this time that we are relaxed after COVID, the members of the communities are about to come out and run on the roads. So we have to design the clubhouses to respond to the lifestyles and inspire confidence for the residents. With the clubhouse, with the air quality in the clubhouses, how to keep the air free of germs and the number of people who will use them at the same time. And if there's an incident like this, the co-working space is a function that becomes more important among the users. So instead of just spending time at home, it will be quite boring. There will be a kind of social room or social center that is an interesting function because we need human contacts. So from now, we have to think how we would go about doing this. So the criteria in our designs, we think about the livability in the homes, the functions, the ventilations, natural ventilations, mechanical ventilations. These are the things that we have to input in our lateral designs. But for condominiums, it's lucky that we didn't have many condominiums projects. But the new projects that we are doing right now, we are putting all these things in using the touchless technologies and the management and the queuing, booking of the facilities. Let's come back to phrases. The expectations of the homeowners. How is that affected by COVID-19? Thank you very much for the opportunity to share here. Before going to the house, I want to talk about why technologies are related to houses. Actually, the industry, the property industries globally, the evaluation is $44 trillion. To put it in perspective, it is the largest asset class. If we put together Google, Amazon, and all the tech companies in the world and look at their revenue in 1 year, it's about $2 trillion. HSBC is 44 trillion. But it is the largest, but we don't use technologies much. So the technologies have, we should ask why. But right now we have fintech, we have e-commerce and other technologies, but the properties we talk about real estate, tech, or property tech, or construction tech. Because property tech and fintech would be the technologies that solve problems for their respective technologies. So what's the problem with real estate? In real estate, it's very inefficient. Like in this stage, on this stage, we have 5 people, but we have to build all the corners of it. So we have to increase the values of these. For us, we use technologies in 3 areas. First, the operational improvements, or an improved experience, like thermal scan and everything that you see in the shopping malls, and innovation in the building strategies. We talk about the adjacent markets, the opportunities that emerge. Like during the COVID pandemic, in the stores or at home, people go online more, and there are adjacent opportunities, and there are businesses coming in as you order deliveries at home. The third one, the real estate as a service. Maybe as we have heard about Justco in a co-working space that you pay for membership and not for the rentals. Or in the US, coming back to the houses, the technologies. If you live in a condo and you want to change to a house, if I want to upgrade my phone, I go to the shop and I sell my phone and then I upgrade it. But I can't do that with house. If I'm in a townhome with one of the provider and then I have a family, I have to move away from that. And that is real life that you face. We have to sell, put our townhouse or condos on sale. And you can move from provider A to B. A loses a customer and B get a customer. So there's a new model in the US. If you want to upgrade from A says, I will buy it back with a market value minus 7%. The condition is that when you upgrade, you have to buy from my projects and I retain you. And then I will have the margin of at least 7%. And if it is in the urban area, I can work with Airbnb, and then it can be another business. For the digital work in Frasers, my job is to not look at it, at the business as the house, condos, or the industrial park, or the offices. But I look at it in terms of living, working, and experiences. And then it's a cross mixed use. Right now with the COVID, it becomes living and working places. And for SMEs, it can be the storage of the goods. So we look at the purposes instead. But how do we get the technologies to add values to the business and improve the living and workplace usage? Right. Speaking of the technologies, Dr. Pornput, are there any new technologies related to houses and property sectors right now? First, let me come back to the change of the technologies. In the previous panel, we said we have one common problem, that is global warming. In the past, technologies with the properties would focus on how to reduce global warming with the certificate, with the designs of the housing, with the green living standards. In Thailand and Singapore, we have the standards, and the technologies were going into that direction. And they focus on how to get the design of the houses and buildings to be efficient in energy consumption. But after COVID pandemic, the health concerns has become much more important. And it's just jumped in to this situation. And when we talk about air cleaning facilities in the spaces and the indoor air quality that is being talked about more. In the Thai context, when we talk about the air quality, what we see most is about PM 2.5 that happened before COVID-19. But that is only for outdoors. We can just wear masks. But this is with the COVID pandemic, it's not just outside. When you step in the buildings, you still have to wear the masks. It's not the air quality outside anymore. Right now, indoor air quality is as important. And we have the technologies with the digital technologies to help. Because air quality is something that we cannot see with our naked eyes. The digital technologies can be the sensors that show them and monitor the results to make sure that we have the comfortable level of air quality that is healthy and if there's any risks. And apart from the sensing and monitoring, the management, like disinfection, addressing the dust, the smells and gas, they come together. We have the filters that address both the dust and gases, like VOC and carbon dioxide. In the crowded places, that is the main thing that we have to design, keep in the design. This filtration is emerging and the technologies are going into that direction. But they don't forget about the energy. With the technologies that help us save the energy and also manage the air quality, like energy recovery ventilation system that help reduces the consumption of energy. And with the complement of the HEPA filters or ionization system, these equipment will help in two fronts at the same time. So technologies are going this way with a combination of two technologies or in hybrid form, addressing two problems at the same time. Let's come back to Kun Alan.
Some of the more interesting technologies in terms of improving indoor air quality and maybe smart home solutions that might become beneficial or might become the norm in the near future.
Thank you so much. You speak English to me. Okay. Pong Kien Pasatai Nambi Andai. So I use English. Yeah. Okay. I think I heard some other speakers, some very creative concept. Yeah. I think the pandemic affect everyone's life. For the COVID-19, yeah. So we have to look at the positive side. If we look, the air pollution is getting better. The ocean or the river is cleaner. And you work at home, you have more time to stay with your family member. Yeah. When I came to Thailand, I saw many very beautiful temple. Yeah. And then later I realized they have very steep shape because that can have the natural circulation, ventilation. Yeah. So sometimes we can learn from the old wisdom. Yeah. Talking about the new technology, yeah, Delta, we have many technology. Our slogan is the smarter, greener together. Yeah. So in terms of the cleaner, we are energy saving, and also we have many, for example, the sensor can sense some dangerous smell or something. Yeah, can prevent some disaster happen in advance. Yeah, we have some device we call ERV, energy recovery ventilation. Yeah, ventilation. Yeah. So yeah, just outside the booth. Yeah, if anyone interested, we can discuss more in details. Yeah.
ขออนุญาตเสริมนะครับเรื่องเทคโนโลยี
Let me add on the technologies. There are two aspects of technologies. What's important is about the devices, as you have said, and users. And another aspect, once we collect data, how do we use the data to enhance the technologies? For Frasers, there are 2 points. First, in this room, when we buy a house, who has used cash to buy the house? 5 million, 15 million baht. You just pay up front. You are rich. But most people in Thailand, when you buy a house, you get a mortgage. For sellers of assets, we want to make sure that people who visit in our showing, we want them to get approved as soon as possible. We can use the technologies in the business conduct to serve the customers by looking at the kind of a bank matching. We are not a bank. We don't do the credit scoring. That is not our job. But we want to get efficiency using the data to get our customers approved. So another technologies for the property industry to support sales is to use the data. Because in one building, we have at least 500 to 600 CCTVs. And property industry has the sensors the most. It's interesting sector comparing to other technology industries. To succeed, you need data acquisition. And in property, it is the cheapest because it's the CCTVs. But they have not been monetized. Comparing to e-commerce, if you want someone to buy something, you need to subscribe, you need to get information. You need to spend a lot of money to get customer data. But we have a lot in property industry. We never used the data that we have so much to support the development of the new businesses. That's another angle. So are you selling data? No, I'm not. But that is something that should complement what we are doing. What about land and house? The use of technologies to support your business. So for us, we use online systems because we build before we sell. So the online technologies have been something that we do with the suppliers, coordination and everything. Apart from that, we go to the house and then the technologies are in a micro scale, like the automation that we provide to the customers, but not all the segments. Because in some segments, we have done it, and after we have done it and surveyed, the users are not familiar with it, like the security systems. In the houses where the senior people live, and a lot of false alarms were made. So we have to gradually adjust. Because if there's a lot of false alarm, then it is not secure anymore. But in the future, of course, there are some integration in place because from COVID-19, it has been very clear. And the next steps, we have the aging society, the CCTV in homes, with the IP cameras that already exist, because daughters wouldn't want to miss out any opportunities to monitor if their elder mothers are safe at home. That is something that is very important. And the generation like me, myself, I'm going into an aging generation soon, and I'm going to be at home. How do I live at home, spend time more? Maybe after COVID-19, I have to spend time more at home, and the indoor air quality is more important. In the past, you spend 2 days at home, but not anymore. In some companies, they started work from home more, like SEG. Some sections have implemented work from home policy. So air quality is becoming very important, and that requires technologies to control. And it has to have the smarts with the sensors. You don't have to keep on air visuals. The systems has to be self-sustained. So the IoT and technologies have become very important. In 5 years, everything will change, I think. Now let's come back to Dr. Ponput, the technologies that everybody mentioned, especially for the residents in the homes. Sounds expensive, isn't it? And from now, how is it? Well, I have to say that technologies in this industry has been going on for quite some time. There are systems, large systems, using sensors and wired connectivity to connect data from the sensors to the processors of the homes. But the IoT technology with the sensors, including sensors that connect on Wi-Fi or with the short-range data transmission or IP WAN connectivity with the village areas or the smart district. They are being used more and more. And these sensors are going in a way that is good for the consumers. They are cheaper and they're smarter as well. In the earlier discussion, we don't need to draw all these and write up the software because they can be run and analyzed on the cloud. And it's not just from our own homes. They can predict and learn and give suggestions based on the data from several homes. Thank you very much. I will let Kun Alan speak.
Speaker some point of view. For example, Fraser mentioned about the many CCTV, okay, and so we can collect another data. But on the other side is everyone know we just passed the law about the Privacy Act, you know. So how to have a balance? That's also important, yeah. And another is like the senior people will more and more in the society. So the remote healthcare is very important. Yeah, you can use the CCTV to monitor, but sometimes maybe your parents also want to have some privacy. So we have some device is the people image will be pixelized, yeah. So it's not very clear. You will still see there's a person, yeah. So I think that's very good balance. Another is like the IoT he mentioned, yeah. outside the door, there's a GPS, very easy to location. But inside, you need some, maybe you can use Bluetooth. Yeah, so Bluetooth, we have the beacon in the smart lighting. Everyone, you have the mobile phone. So mobile phone inside with the Bluetooth module. So we can do the indoor tracing as well. Yeah, this is the benefit of technology. Yeah.
Thank you เชิญเลยค่ะมาเรา
Right, let's take some questions, please. If you have any questions, please go ahead. Any questions, please? Hungry? Any questions, please? Go ahead. We have 4 experts on the stage. There's one. Good morning. I'm an analyst from Yuanta. Just one question with Delta. Apart from the wall installed air exchanger, air ventilation, are there any other solutions that will be implemented more?
Core technology is the power electronics. So we have another advantage is all our fan is DC fan, not the AC. Okay, this is more energy saving and also quiet compared to the AC fan. Yeah. Other than the ERV, we have many different type of ventilation. Yeah. So we also integrate with other, different kind of Delta product. We come up with, for example, a negative pressure wall. You know, when during the COVID-19, we talk about the negative pressure, how to contain the virus. Yeah. So we can use, for example, the Logitech Delta control device and some software, some people counting, you know, to create a whole solution. Yeah. I hope that addressed your question. Yeah.
เชิญค่ะมีอีกไหมคะคำถาม
Right. Any other questions? If not, then maybe some last words from our panelists about the smart living in the future. What's the direction for us all, like it or not? Land and House first then. Once again, smart living, I think, as I have told you, it has become more important and for the new generations, they are familiar with the technologies and smart living. For Gen X people, well, that may not be something you're familiar with, but people will bring it to you. The younger generation will bring it to you to use, and the care for elder people. Smart living will be an answer, and we have smaller sizes of the families, and it will be difficult to get your kids to bring you to the doctors. So something that will support your livelihood in managing your housing, your living quarters in a more sustainable way. That will be something that we need. So smart living is inevitable, sooner or later. For Fraser, smart living in Thailand, the adoption in the real estate, they're in residential, but the most part they are in industrial. We talk about Industry 4.0 a lot, and the automation in the e-commerce has grown so much. So in a couple of years, smart living, when we order something online, it will get to us faster, saves time. And that means living means our time is valuable and it can be used more wisely. So it will happen to the industries, and then it will push to the well-being and living. And the technologies like telemedicine, people don't want to go to the hospital for fear of the COVID. And we can get goods that are more various, including medical supplies, delivered to your homes. In the house itself, in Fraser's perspective, we think it's not going to be major adoption due to the security and privacy. I work in technology, but in my home, I don't have any technologies implemented. So it will happen in the industries, and then it will be pushed to the residents. For our team, we think smart living is to solve certain problems. And it is not just for the residents or the users of the buildings, owners of the buildings and the business owners as well. Because buildings have some implications on the businesses. So smart livings will solve problems for the two sides, solving the pain points of the business owners in the designs, in operations, in the costing, usage, and operations facilitation for the residents. That is also smart living, not just for the residents alone. But all in all, we think the technologies will combine, will merge in one piece with the cost reduction, with the operational efficiencies, and on the other side, the comfort and convenience for the residents.
I think people still is social animal. Even most of the time we stay in the room. Yeah. So how to balance the virtual world and the real world? How to balance the technology and also the privacy. Security and the privacy. Yeah. So I think this is quite important. Yeah.
ขอบคุณสำหรับคำถามนะคะ
Thank you very much, and a big round of applause for our panelists. Can we have all the panelists outside for the photo opportunity?
Mr. Chang, President of Delta Electronics, to please come on stage and give our speakers token of appreciation. ท่านแรกเชิญคุณชัยยุทธก่อนเลยค่ะเรียนเชิญค่ะ ขอบคุณค่ะเรียนเชิญคุณสุภรัตน์ค่ะเรียนเชิญค่ะขอบคุณค่ะเรียนเชิญดร.พรพุทธค่ะขอบคุณค่ะทีนี้เชิญถ่ายภาพร่วมกันนะคะ a group photo a group photo yeah ขอบพระคุณมากค่ะ Thank you very much ขอบพระคุณค่ะ But Mr. Jackie please remain on stage เดี๋ยวขอเรียนเชิญคุณ
Now I would like to invite Kun Vachirapong Burapachon on the stage. and Kun Sakda for the photo op, please.
ประโมทค่ะขึ้นรับมอบของที่ระลึกนะคะเรียนเชิญทีนี้ขอเรียนเชิญคุณกิตติศักดิ์ค่ะขึ้นไปถ่ายภาพร่วมกันหน่อยนะคะขอบพระคุณมากค่ะ Thank you very much Mr. Jackie ขอ
Distinguished guests, can you please complete the questionnaire and get the souvenir and lunch coupon at the registration? And if you wish to interview Mr. Jackie Chan, you can do so at the backdrop. And on behalf of Delta Industry Technology Thailand, we would like to thank you for your participation. And lunch is served just one floor below. Thank you very much.